Welcome back to the channel, everybody. This is Carolyn from Moms for Justice. Okay, I said I was going to bring it. Here it is. So it's time to do some debunking. We got some major debunking going on here with the Mackenzie Shirilla case. It's time to drop some bombs. It's time to discredit some of the things that are going on about the Mackenzie Shirilla case. So many people on social media that are jumping all over this just so they can make some money. Now, you can easily say that about me, right? You can easily say that about me. But listen, I am not cheap that way. And I don't go against the truth ever because I want to make some money. That's not the way I work. In fact, if I wanted to make a lot of money with this case, I would go against the grain like some of these people are doing and say that she's innocent. Because most people think she's guilty, guys, and it's oversaturated with she's guilty all across YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, X, you name it. So it would be to my advantage to say, Mackenzie's innocent. Look at me, look at me. Okay. And then that would be like a strategy to make videos and TikToks or whatever about her being innocent because I'm going to get a lot of rage bait. And with rage bait comes a lot of clicks and views, right? And then I'm going to make a lot of money. But no, I don't do that. I'm not like that. So I'm going to do what I always do, which is just investigate a case, provide information. And if that produces views, okay, great. But if it doesn't, honestly, I don't care because I'm at least doing what I love to do and being true to myself. So I'm just going to say that. And Crime Circus is this huge true crime channel all across YouTube. He's kind of the main person I'm targeting here because he's on this crusade to prove that she is innocent. And this is a channel ran by a clown. Okay, I kid you not. He's a clown. Go look. Wait a minute. Better yet, don't go look. Don't give him any attention. Don't give him any clicks. Don't give him any subscriptions. Don't do anything with him because that's pretty much what he wants, right? And most people who watch his stuff, they are not going to take the time to go through each thing he says and debunk it because it does take a lot of work. Not everybody has the FOIA and discovery, the reports. Not everybody has all the information and not everybody has all the time to sit there and do some research. So I've done it for you. Okay. And we're going to take some of the main points that he talks about and I'm going to prove to you that he is full of doo-doo. Okay. And please go do yourself a favor. And I mean this from the bottom of my heart. Go find some other channels. It doesn't have to be mine. Go find some channels that you know are truthful and honest. Okay. And they deliver solid information. Subscribe to them only. Put your notification bell for them on only. That is it. Okay. Don't listen to this other noise because there is so much garbage out there. The moral decay of our society is insane right now. Okay. But go give legit channels your subscription. Okay. Because all the garbage is making the legit channels look bad. Okay. We're not all bad. So, I don't have to be that one that you subscribe to. But my advice to you, to every single person, is to find that channel that you know you're going to get solid information, like a Brian Enton. Okay. I'm going to be plugging some people here. Okay. My favorites. Brian Enton. Plunder True Crime, Pretty Lies and Alibis, Gigi. I love her. These are channels that I think are legit, but more importantly, the person running it is not a fraud and not a faker. Okay, so you want that. You want your host who's running this and giving you information, somebody who can admit when they make a mistake, they can admit when their information is wrong, and they're not just trying to sway you. So there's a video by Crime Circus called Proving Mackenzie Shirilla is Innocent. 10 big opinion booms. Boom. Like the shirt that Steve Shirilla wore on the crash. That's where he gets it from. He says he was advertising his support for this Crime Circus channel, which is a circus. It's an absolute circus. Okay. And it's an 18-minute long video that he put out. And the main clown, the clown guy, is a drip drop. I mean, I can't believe I'm even saying this. I can't believe people watch this guy. Silly clown makeup, and is trying to make this strong case that Mackenzie Shirilla is innocent. He gives a key disclaimer from the video saying, everything said is my opinion and someone else's fantasy. He repeatedly frames his points as opinion and says the verdict will be overturned on appeal and she will be free. He calls it a tragic accident, not premeditated murder, and accuses media outlets and other YouTubers like me of repeating lies and, just trying to get clicks, which is kind of ironic. But yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing. Drip drop. So you see this clown guy, whatever you call yourself. I have every single case document, every single Snapchat, Instagram, TikTok, every picture, every text, a long history of bullying and abuse along with her run-ins with the law. Okay, I've got proof that this young girl has no structure, no boundaries, always gets what she wants, wouldn't take no for an answer, followed by proof that Dom was trying to leave her. And she just couldn't allow that. She just couldn't. And memes and songs to convey to her minions that she is the girl you die for. Proof. She drove erratic from countless witness statements. And a Mackenzie that screams obscenities at a school bus full of children because of road rage. And videos showing her speeding. Videos showing her driving, smoking dope. Okay? And in most cases, not all, without a seatbelt on. And this girl was a time bomb. She was ready to explode. It is so obvious. And this guy on his channel is talking about opinions. Well, I've never seen so much factual evidence staring one right in the face as we have with this case. So the video and the other YouTubers I'm debunking, because it's really kind of like a mass group of people that I'm trying to answer to, because they just get on. They just like hit record with no investigation whatsoever and go, I think Mackenzie's innocent. And then boom, 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 everybody's like mad. And then they go on, they give the person the attention, they get all these clicks and views. And it's like, how can you say that? Why do you think that? And then she writes back or he writes back, and then they keep going and going and going. And guess what, guys? It feeds the algorithm. It does. No doubt about it. That's why when people comment on my videos, I don't censor people. So if you comment, first of all, and most importantly, I allow all opinions as long as they're respectful. But it does feed my algorithm if you're going to comment. So it's doing it for them too. I mean, let's just be honest here. So this video is going to be about the 10 undisputable, irrefutable facts. His big opinion booms that he has that he says proves her innocence, and much more than that, because I pulled videos from everywhere of these people saying she's innocent, and it's absolutely insane. Meanwhile, we over here are supporting these convictions of murder because we have facts, not opinions. Okay, the preponderance of the evidence proves without a shadow of a doubt that she intentionally drove her car to kill her boyfriend, Dominic Russo, and his friend, not hers. Okay, and Davion Flanagan. I want to say his name because he's just as important here. But I mean, really, she should be so lucky she even has a chance at parole in 15 years. It's disgusting that she only got a sentence for 1 out of 2 people, because that's really what it is, right? They're like, okay, you're guilty of both, and it's 15 years each, but that don't count. You just serve one set of 15 years. Okay, I'm sorry, you're lucky, and your family is still complaining. Like, unreal. So she should be so lucky. She continued down this destructive path with a cold heart and a lack of remorse for what she has done. So let's get started, okay? So Mackenzie, the number one boom he says on his video is, and I'm not playing his video because I'm not giving him any attention, so don't plan on that. I just pulled him right off. He's got 10. Here's the first one. 1, he says Mackenzie was sober and in a loving relationship that morning. No arguments or threats. Okay. He emphasizes that by all accounts, she and her boyfriend, they were at this small get together, watching TV, cuddling, and getting along great. No fighting, no arguments, no threats, nothing. Okay. He says Kenzie was sober. And then he goes on to say, yeah, you may have been lied to elsewhere about this piece of information, but that's a fact. And that's a boom. Okay. Well, he says this directly contradicts the media's claims. Well, Proctor specifically claimed that immediately after the crash, Landon Turner told him that Mackenzie and Dominic were arguing upon leaving Paul Burlinghouse's residence, okay, which was their last stop before the crash. Proctor alleges that Landon changed his story the day after the crash, but had already mentioned the argument to other individuals at the memorial. So he was telling this story about that there was one. Do you know what I mean? And the other thing is this, it's bogus, loving relationship. This was the most toxic, psychotic relationship. This was not a loving relationship. And what blows my mind is that somebody could get on a video and actually make that statement when there is like evidence that it's the complete opposite, right? I mean, they were yelling at each other all the time, filming each other in arguments. The text messages, look at this text message right here. Yeah, I would say that's not very loving. Okay, number 2, he talks about how she did not dress as a corpse/zombie. She dressed as the rapper Playboy Cardi in memory of her boyfriend. He says the costume and makeup were done well, and it was like this tribute because both were such big fans, and, grieving people grieve in their own way, and this is not proof of being a psychopath with no remorse. Okay. The bottom line is that the character that she dressed up as was morbid. It was a deathly looking character. It was a corpse is what it was. I don't care if she did it. She should have had discernment to know just a couple months after his death that, no, I don't want to be dark like that. I don't want to dress up like a corpse. My boyfriend just died. She didn't have any kind of discernment. I think even the youngest of young, even teenagers would know enough to know that there's something not right with that, and they would not want to dress that way. Plus, you were in a wheelchair all this time, healing all this time. You need to simmer down. A lot of people are a little suspicious of you. You are responsible. Let's say she really didn't intentionally do it, which I don't believe. But let's say she was somebody that truly just had a bad accident and it, unfortunately killed 2 people. I would still want to take myself off the radar just for simple respect for the families. Just, you know what? I'm sure that someday they'll heal and they'll realize it was just an accident. But until then, I don't want to disturb them or upset. And my face is probably a reminder of the accident. Well, make no mistake, she did this on purpose and murdered them. But I'm trying to prove a point here that if you didn't do it, which is what she says, a normal person would not have pictures all over the place for the families to see of you dressed up as a corpse. Okay? I don't care if it's a rapper that you and Dom both loved. It was not respectful, and it was really eerie and weird, and I'm sorry. Very, very bad decision on her part. Okay, I'm going to get into this next one more very deep, and you guys are going to be shocked with what I tell you guys later when it comes to the whole her being seen driving around leading up to the crash at the same location. I will do that. But the crash site, number 3 is the crash site was near a food stand where she had already texted to pick up potatoes for dinner. Less than 1 mile from Allison's food stand. This is Crime Circus. She texts the owner about setting aside red skin potatoes for her and Dom because he liked to cook. And this shows that she was just planning dinner, not a crash. Okay, well, hello, 7 times. It doesn't take 7 trips to go get potatoes. All right, so I don't think any of the 7 times had anything to do with the potatoes. I'm sorry, I just don't. The quote here is, would you be able to set out some red skin potatoes for me and Dom? And yes, that's true. There is a text message in the FOIA which has her asking this question, would you be able to set out some red skin potatoes for me and Dom? And we can come and get them as soon as we can. He calls this, exculpatory evidence and says that she was premeditating dinner. But what we know is that she actually was driving that route, Progress to Alameda, 7 times, people. All right, I'm just going to move on because I'm doing a lot about the driving route to the crash later in this episode. So hang out with me. It's coming. Number 4, she showed clear remorse and grief afterwards. Crime Circus says she had a shrine in her bedroom with pictures and items for her boyfriend. She visited his gravesite daily while in a wheelchair and neck brace. Made sure he pointed that out, how injured she was. She posted about him frequently on social media in the days, weeks, and months after. And this is evidence of a grieving teenager, not someone who felt nothing. Okay, hello? This is somebody who posted all the time, even before the crash, every single day. And why did she do it? She did it because of insecurity, wanting attention on her all the time, trying to build her brand. If she didn't act like she cared about Dom right after and post about him, she would look pretty bad. I think she's smart enough to know that, I better post about him because people are going to think I killed him if I didn't. So, I mean, really, that is not even like a big boom like this, Crime Circus guy says. So I'm going to move on from that. 5, she never threatened to crash the car. Instead, the texts show that she was scared after a prior incident with her boyfriend. He says there's no text recordings or friend statements that show her ever threatening to crash. 2 weeks earlier, her boyfriend allegedly, Crime Circus says, allegedly apologized for grabbing the wheel and trying to crash. Texts show her fear and him saying things like he died first. He reads the text as showing a frightened teenage girl, not a guilty one. Okay. There are multiple documented examples of her threatening Dom. Threatening herself too, but threatening Dom. And I don't know why. There is an incident where she's blaming him in text, and I think I went over them in a previous video, where she's like, dude, whatever, in her nasty talk, and I'm not going to talk like her, you almost made me crash, whatever. Honestly, if you read the context before and after those text messages, it appears they had an argument in the car. And like she always does, she goes ballistic, she goes psycho, and was probably driving crazy. And he might have bumped into her or even leaned over and tried to get her to pull over, whatever it may be. And the reason why I feel that in my bones to be the case is because in the text messages after that, every time she said, you tried to kill me, you tried to crash my car, he never responds with, why are you saying that? I never did that. He never says that. He's like, you're crazy, girl. He's like, you're crazy. I don't know what, you're out of your mind. There is no and these are private, intimate text messages. Dom is alive at this time. There's no reason for anyone to believe that anybody would hear these text messages someday. It was just the two of them. So obviously, if he did that, he knows that Kenzie's aware he did that. So he would have at least been saying sorry or saying, well, I grabbed the wheel because of this. Instead, he says nothing but that she's out of her mind. I'm paraphrasing, but it was like, you're crazy. You're out of your mind. So that's how I know that that's a complete lie. All right. And what we do know is she was driving a couple weeks before the crash, and he had to call his mother because they're on a highway and he was terrified for his life. And it was heard in the background from out of Mackenzie's voice, I'm going to crash this car. Number 6, she did not scout the route. It was a normal, quick shortcut. The route was a simple cut through, he says, not a dead end. Well, nobody said it was a dead end. Nobody that I heard ever said it was a dead end. The total drive time that morning was only about 45 seconds, he says, as normal speed. Something happened in the last 15 seconds. He suggests a stuck accelerator, and the road was dimly lit, and the stop sign building may not have been visible in time. Okay, I got a lot to say about that. Number 7, there is zero digital evidence of guilt, planning, or motive. I love this one because I don't really have to say anything, do I? I mean, think about it, guys. That is so easily proven wrong. He says, after reviewing thousands of texts and posts, nothing points to guilt or pre-planning. No Google searches. Fair enough. None. No incriminating chats. I beg to differ. No motive. No life insurance. Hello, they're teenagers. They're not getting life insurance on each other, honey. No custody issues. Again, no kids. And no other guy. Well, I'm not so sure about that. She let a lot of people mess with her feet now, wasn't she? Okay, and she had everything to lose and nothing to gain. Guys, he was accusing her of being a prostitute. He had information that she was prostituting herself. Okay, that information gets out or gets back to her parents. Oh, wait a minute. The parents wouldn't have cared, would they? Okay. If it had gotten out, it could ruin her reputation, right? Online, her social media stature. Okay. So it cracks me up, this guy. He really does, because zero digital evidence of guilt, planning, or motive. Okay, guys, there's so many things that could be motive. Number one for me is he wanted nothing to do with her anymore. He was trying to get rid of her. Okay. Yeah, he got soft. He took her back a couple times. But hey, there are some guys that if the girl raises heck enough and is raging mad, threatening to kill herself if you leave her, sometimes it's like, I'm exhausted. I think I'll stay with her a little longer and figure out how I'm going to leave later. That is what Dom was doing. Okay. He didn't want to be with her anymore. And she knew that. The clock was ticking. At some point, she was going to get dumped. Okay. So that's number one motive. And why is it such a strong motive? It's a strong motive because Mackenzie Shirilla was Miss Queen. Everybody loved Mackenzie. Her reputation was everything to her. How she appeared on her social media was everything to her. You know, she was like a big old package. You know, like some people walk around with a little toy dog and, and then the Jimmy Choo shoes and the designer bag and, everything has to be just so. Well, Dom was part of her package, being on his arm, and I really think that she wouldn't know how to explain to people on social media that she got dumped because he's everywhere on her pages. Okay. So people would have been like, hey, where's your guy Dom? Whatever. And if she lies, everybody else could call her out and be like, what are you talking about? He dumped your butt. You know what I mean? It's just, and also internally, the rejection. I think she's such a damaged, insecure girl. And I can see why, by the way she was raised. Look at the way these parents raised her. No authority. People think that because she got away with so much with her parents that she would have confidence because she gets everything she wants. That's actually the complete opposite, everybody. I'm a mom. I have 2 teenagers. Let me tell you something. If you don't give your children structure and hold them accountable, they will feel lost. They actually, moms that have kids that do a lot of pushback and say, why are you on me all the time? Why can't I go to that party? Why can I stay out late? They make you feel like, you're not giving them enough freedom. But the fact is that if you put structure in play, 10 years later down the road, they're going to go, thank you. Thank you so much for doing that for me because I really needed it. I know somebody right now, and of course, I'm never going to call them out on here, but I know somebody right now that has no structure in their household and they have little kids. And those kids are off the wall. They are like tantrums everywhere, yelling, they're cursing, you name it. And it's because they don't know what to expect. Kids, teens, they want to know what to expect. Structure. You wake up at the same time every day. You go to bed at the same time at night. Mom and dad is always there to give you that hug. Mom and dad says, no, that's wrong. You shouldn't be doing that. And believe me, for parents, it's exhausting. And you think that you're hurting your child. Am I losing my child by doing this? You're not. Hang in there because it pays off later and they will thank you for it. Okay, so I think her insecurity comes from a place of nobody really giving a crap. Everybody just letting her do whatever she wants. So back to motive, the idea of Dom leaving her, okay, because she is an insecure person, is just too much to take, okay, for this girl. And the digital evidence, there's none. He actually put 0 digital evidence. Guys, there's evidence everywhere in this case. I don't think I need to play it all. I don't think I need to play it all. I don't think I need to show it all. I mean, it's all over my videos. Go ahead and watch. Watch the text messages. I'm reading them all. Watch the stuff that's coming out. Watch what inmates are saying about her if you choose to believe them or not. It all makes sense to me. Okay, number 8. He's got reasonable doubt from Toyota's long history of faulty accelerators. So he goes on to say that Toyota has paid out billions over decades for stuck accelerator pedals and floor mats. This applies to the 2017 Camry model involved. And there are ongoing complaints online, forums, and comments sections about this exact issue. Well, the first thing I'm going to do is tell you right now that she drove a 2018 Toyota Camry, according to the reports here. It is a 2018 Camry. Yeah, but I got so much more to say about it. Okay, so here we go. Number 9, reasonable doubt from her medical history. Seizures, specifically, plus physical evidence at the scene. The Prada slipper. A neurologist, he says, Crime Circus says, a neurologist specialist submitted a report for the appeal, signed and under oath, stating that he believes Mackenzie had a seizure just prior to the crash. The doctor says when people have seizures while driving, their foot often locks stiff and floors the gas. He shows a real example video of another seizure-related crash. Crime scene photos show her big, oversized slipper clearly stuck between the floor mat and the accelerator pedal. Pedal floored to the floor after a 100-mile-per-hour impact into the brick wall with no human foot in it. The slipper should have flown out on impact but stayed lodged. That's because the car crumpled around the slipper. Okay. He argues this is consistent with her being passed out unconscious from a seizure and unable to get her foot/slipper off the pedal. Okay. Got a lot to say about this one. Okay. And then number 10, he says this was a witch trial with multiple rights violations and an unfair process. No jury. Okay, first of all, it's not unfair when you were given a choice and you chose a bench trial. So how is that unfair? There's nothing unfair about it. You chose the other one. You chose the cheaper chicken, okay? She did not believe your story. But anyway, he goes on to say she was only 17. Boo-hoo. She was almost 18, like days away from being 18 years old. And she should have been tried in juvenile court. If you live in today's morally corrupt world, you'll realize that the world has smartened up and starting to hold teenagers accountable for the worst of the worst crimes. And this is one of them. So I'm sorry. It's no different than Carmelo Anthony. You know, you stab somebody in the heart, you murder them, you do the time. With Mackenzie, because the evidence showed it was a deliberate attempt to crash that car, which ended up murdering 2 people. I'm sorry, but you got to pay the piper. He goes on to say that it was illegally transferred to adult court. No, it's not illegal. Okay, what they're doing is completely legal. The original coroner's report said accidental. And in the beginning, nobody really knew all the facts yet. It had to have an investigation, and it led to being changed to murder. Sorry. Yeah. Okay, what does that prove? They put down accidental originally because that's what they thought. And it was, he says, changed. And then he says it was changed illegally without a court order. Okay. Barking up the wrong tree. Officers were already contemplating charges before victims were even extracted from the car. Her rights were violated many times. Show me the proof of that. Show me the proof that officers were already contemplating these charges before they were extracted from the car. Let me tell you something. The people that showed up at that scene weren't thinking about anything but saving lives in that moment. You can watch that video and you can see that first they have shock. They're in shock. They see the situation at hand and they start pulling things off and looking around. And then they see 3 people inside this car and they see that there's one still alive, right? They're not sitting there going, let's stand over here and we're going to make this a murder charge. Most people wouldn't make that a murder charge right at that point at all. You see a car bashed in like that with people inside, most people are going to assume a terrible accident happened. I mean, this isn't a common thing we see. So he goes on to say how her rights were violated so many times. Then he says the trial was not broadcast and there was no jury, bench trial, all that. Okay, most people involved in a crime, the defendant, do not want it televised. Most of them do not want it televised. Okay, he's throwing that in there. The trial was not broadcast. Well, you know, maybe for Mackenzie, maybe she would be one of the only ones that would be like, yes, bring those cameras in. I want them on me. He calls the verdict sus. Gotta say, that's a word my 18-year-old uses all the time. Mom, that was so sus. Okay, and he says it's all wrong. Dozens of news outlets and fake YouTubers repeating lies without any real investigation. Oh, I did my homework. I did my homework. He quotes, upon basic logic and rational thought, this entire case falls apart very quickly once you've realized you've been lied to about the most simplest things. You will come to only one conclusion. She's actually factually innocent. He summarizes that these are his 10 points of proof positive innocence. He says that's all he's got for now at the end of this video. And when was this video? This video was 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago. And I know he's been covering the case for a while. So that's all you got? That's all you got? Okay, let's dive into some more. Okay, let me show you some things I've found.
Mackenzie Shirilla needs a new trial, and you know that's true. How do you feel knowing in the Mackenzie Shirilla case, there are possibly almost a dozen more cameras on Progress Drive that we don't have videos for? Before we check out those, let's confirm the ones that we do have videos from.
Okay. Investigators conducted a very thorough canvass of the area immediately following this crash. Okay. And I've got the reports right in front of me right now. Okay. They requested the surveillance footage from several businesses along Progress Drive and Alameda Drive. And while they successfully obtained footage from some of those locations, they encountered quite a few technical issues. There's some broken equipment and unhelpful camera angles at many others. So here's the breakdown of the camera footage requested and what happened with it, okay? Eurofin's oil, test oil, which is on Progress Drive. This business successfully provided police with a thumb drive containing 10 video clips that captured the vehicle's approach and the actual impact with the building from different viewpoints, okay? Then we have Parma Movers, Lincoln Moving and Storage, which is at 20036 Progress Drive. A representative from there provided footage on a flash drive that shows the Toyota traveling westbound past their building at a very high rate of speed. Third place is City Camera, which is at the intersection of Pearl Road and Progress Drive. An IT technician recovered footage from a city traffic camera showing the dark-colored sedan slowing down and safely turning onto Progress Drive shortly before the crash. And that is that video everybody sees where it looks like she's just driving normal and she's making that right-hand turn just before the spot that we don't see, okay? Now, footage that was requested that was unusable or unavailable comes from here. Plidco, which is 11792 Alameda Drive. This was the building that the vehicle struck. Investigators checked with the president of the company. Okay, this is all in the reports, guys. But she informed them that there were no cameras directed at the scene of the crash, meaning they had no footage at all. Then we have Shoreline Express, which is at 20137 Progress Drive. A representative checked the video for the time frame of the crash. However, their cameras only record when triggered by motion. Okay, so stay with me here. Even though the vehicle would have been in the camera's view, it was traveling actually so fast, so beyond fast, okay, that it did not trigger the motion sensor. That's how fast she was going. So the camera didn't even record the car. It was like, the speed of light, okay? That's how fast it was that it didn't even trigger the motion sensor. Then we have Brew Kettle. 20102 Progress Drive. A representative on the scene stated that their cameras did not work because someone else had recently taken over their lease. So don't have that. Albion Industries is at 20246 Progress Drive. The business initially provided video files on a flash drive, but the police were unable to open them. When detectives followed up to get new copies, Albion advised them that the footage had already been overwritten. So can't have that either. Then we have NCDS Medical Building at 19645 Progress Drive. So this business emailed a photo showing a vehicle traveling on Progress Drive around the time of the crash. However, the detective noted that given the lighting conditions and the distance of the camera, the make and model of the vehicles were completely unknown, therefore unusable. So Crime Circus puts out these lies, making you think, why didn't he get the other footage? Where's the other footage? Well, there is no other footage. Okay, if there's no footage, there's nothing to look at, buddy. So You go ahead and try to go around to all these businesses and see if you can get it. But it's right here in the report that they made an attempt for every place that was in and around the crash where they could get some footage. And some they got and some they didn't.
We've all been told Mackenzie Shirilla never hit the brakes. But in this video, we are going to see the brake lights illuminate twice. Let's slow the video down and zoom in a little. Did you see that? The brake lights clearly illuminate.
Okay, sounds like a slam dunk, right? Sounds like, ooh, we need to look into that. Okay, well, I'm about to burst your bubble. Okay, so yes, it's in the report that camera footage does show brake lights illuminating right before this crash. Okay, and the vehicle's internal data, though, proves the driver never pressed the brake pedal. So here's exactly what the report details about this discrepancy. Okay, and I'm reading it right from there. So the camera footage showing brake lights, investigators did notice the brake lights come on in the surveillance footage provided by Eurofins Oil, which I just talked about. The report details that at 5:39 and 42 seconds, as the vehicle crashes into the Plitko sign just before hitting the building, the rear brake lights are illuminated. A detective noted that the footage captured these brake lights coming on just mere fractions of a second prior to the crash. The Toyota black box EDR data. Okay, despite the visual of these brake lights, the data recovered directly from the Toyota's event data recorder proved that Mackenzie still was not the one braking. So EDR data shows that at no point service brake applied. Okay, instead, the data recorded that the accelerator pedal was pressed to 100% for at least 4.75 seconds prior to the hard steering event that precedes the crash. Then detectives used this data to completely rule out brake failure, confirming the vehicle simply continued to accelerate at 100 miles per hour until impact. And there's another little nugget I'm going to give you about the miles per hour in a second, but I'm not going to go there. So investigators consulted with Ohio State Highway Patrol and a Toyota master technician to explain why these brake lights illuminated. So if Mackenzie wasn't pressing the pedal, then how did it happen? Well, they concluded that the lights were triggered by the car's automatic Toyota Safety Sense P system. Okay, this system exists and it uses radar and cameras to assist with crash avoidance and stability. Because Mackenzie was making extreme driver input, hard steering left, hard steering right, while traveling at up to almost 100 miles per hour, the vehicle's automated safety systems engaged to try and avoid the impact and correct the car's orientation. So the technician explains that when this automatic system activates to slow the vehicle's tires and maintain control, he says, and I quote, "The system will activate those rear brake lights even if the driver is not, big letters, not pressing the brake pedal." Therefore, investigators officially concluded that while the car's internal safety system briefly activated the lights just fractions of a second before impact, no braking was ever applied by the operator. All right, let's go over this one thing that everybody talks about, the timestamp discrepancy that night. So there's two different timestamps. Okay, one when you're turning onto Progress Drive, a city traffic camera mounted at the intersection of Pearl Road and Progress captured Mackenzie's vehicle safely turning onto Progress Drive at 5:34:30, okay, a.m. in the morning. Then the crash timestamp is very different. The surveillance video from Test Oil, which captures the actual impact with the building, is stamped as a time of 5:39:42 a.m. So the camera time discrepancy, if you look at just those raw numbers, it appears it took over 5 minutes to drive down the street. Now, if you guys look, I did show the drone footage of actual real time going at a normal speed down that road. And obviously, it's not going to take you that long to get down that road, even at a normal speed. She was speeding, so she would have gotten there much faster. So obviously, there's a problem there. On August 8th of 2022, Detective Vanek contacted the representative for Test Oil to check their camera's internal clock. And the representative confirmed to police that the Test Oil camera system was exactly 4 minutes and 20 seconds fast ahead of actual time. So the actual timeline, when you correct the Test Oil's camera fast clock, by subtracting those 4 minutes and 20 seconds, the timeline aligns perfectly at 5:34:30 a.m., her turning on to progress, and then 5:35:22 corrected to when the vehicle crashes into the building. So this corrected timeline indicates that only about 52 seconds elapsed from the moment she turned onto the street that we all saw at a nice slow pace until the fatal impact. Now, there is an intermediate camera as well. Sometime after completing that safe turn, she begins to speed. And a surveillance camera at Parma Movers, located like about 0.3 miles away from the eventual crash site, captures her vehicle traveling westbound at a high rate of speed. The final 5 seconds, the vehicle event data recorder, EDR, or black box, only records data for the final few seconds prior to this crash. The EDR data revealed that by the time this final recording window began, she had already reached 100 miles per hour. Furthermore, the data showed that her accelerator pedal was pressed to 100%, completely floored for at least 4.75 seconds straight before she jerked the steering wheel. Okay, now, I want to talk about this Toyota Camry recall, all right? So there was indeed a safety recall associated with that vehicle, but the police reports confirm that the issue had already been addressed prior to the crash. Yep. You know what that means? That means that the Shirillas were notified that her Toyota should be looked at, okay, is what they're saying here, all right? And when investigators visited Metro Toyota, the general manager provided them with the vehicle's service history for Mackenzie Shirilla's car, which included the technical instructions for, quote, safety recall 21TA09. However, the documentation explicitly proved that this recall had already been completed on Mackenzie Shirilla's vehicle. So furthermore, the Toyota Camry underwent a thorough forensic inspection by accident reconstructionists and a forensic mechanic. Okay, and their official inspection report concluded that the vehicle was free, and I'm going to quote this here, free of defect at the time of the event and shows no evidence of any malfunction causing or contributing to the event. So as we discussed earlier, investigators also used the car's internal event data recorder to completely rule out that brake failure, confirming that the brakes were not malfunctioning. Rather, the gas pedal was simply fully depressed without the brakes ever being applied by the driver. Okay? Official reports prove that the recall was completed on her specific vehicle, and Detective Hazu's report says investigators requested and received the documents from the general manager at Metro Toyota on August 29, 2022. Okay? Among these records provided to the police were vehicle's complete service history, technical instructions for a safety recall, and specific documentation officially showing that the recall was completed on her vehicle. So, yeah, I got nothing else to say about that. Boom! Oh, and by the way, because the defense's argument hinged on claims of an unexpected medical blackout, meaning I blacked out, or I had a seizure, or it was my POTS, not a vehicle defect, that wasn't part of their defense. Because of that, the unrelated 2017 or 18, right, whoever you believe, okay, Toyota recall rumors were not even relevant in this case.
And now we are showing you tire marks on the pavement. As you can see here, on the morning of the accident, this man is on scene, and the tire marks on the pavement catch his eye. He looks down multiple times because he is observing what we are observing right now.
So as you all know, it has been widely reported that no braking, no skid marks, right? But check it out. The reports do confirm, I'm looking at it, that there were signs of the tires interacting with the road right before the crash. Okay, but they clarify in the report that these were not skid marks from braking. Okay, here is what the actual investigation says about tire marks and the tire behavior at the scene. Okay, a visible tire track. Detectives photographed the crash site and documented finding a passenger side tire. Okay, a passenger side tire track directly oriented toward the Plitco sign and the southeastern corner of the building. The screeching sound. The Ohio State Highway Patrol analyzed the surveillance video and noted that there was this loud screeching sound, which can be heard coming from the Camry's tires right before it enters the intersection. This is caused by steering, not braking. Okay, so Sergeant Ryan Fox explains that this screeching was not a skid mark from slamming on brakes. Instead, it was the result of Mackenzie's final hard steering event because she violently jerked the steering wheel while traveling at 100 miles per hour. Her tires then turned, but the car's massive forward momentum kept it sliding straight. The screeching and the resulting track were caused by the turned tires scraping against the pavement as the road friction failed to overcome the speed of the car.
Don't you think it's odd that the speedometer was stuck at about 70 miles per hour?
Okay, so, I mean, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out why it would be stuck at that. Okay, and if you don't know, I didn't mean to insult you, but I will explain to you why it was stuck at that. So the investigative report does show that the speedometer was actually stuck at 78 miles per hour, it says in the report. The picture does look like 70, but it's marked in the report as 78 miles per hour. And then secondly, the vehicle did physically lose speed. And I'm going to explain to you why. It's not because she wasn't going 100 miles per hour, because she was. She never took her foot off that pedal. Let me explain to you how this works. So they documented that the speedometer was stuck at 78. And the data retrieved from the Toyota EDR confirms that the vehicle did reach 100 miles per hour. And the accelerator pedal was pressed 100% continuously before the crash without brakes ever being applied. Okay, this is why the speed looks dropped on the speedometer. The Southwest Crash Investigation Group, okay, these are professionals, okay, these are professionals that are looking at this. I would trust them, okay? They analyzed the EDR data and they found that despite the gas pedal being all the way to the floor, the car's engine, the throttle began to decrease 2.10 seconds just before the crash, which causes the car to lose some speed prior just to the impact, okay? Now, the investigator, this is interesting and it makes total sense and you're all going to see in a second. Investigators determined that this sudden loss of speed happens because the vehicle struck the curb first prior to striking the wall of the building. So she's coming down the street. There's the curb, the sign, and then the wall, okay? They concluded that by hitting the curb, that caused the car's wheels to briefly leave the road surface, which does trigger a decrease in engine throttle. All right. So therefore, while Mackenzie is, pedal to the metal 100 miles per hour down the street, hitting the curb made the car naturally cause the vehicle to lose just a little bit of speed right before that final impact. And that resulted in the speedometer freezing at 78 miles per hour when the car struck the building. Mackenzie visited the site of the crash 7 times before the crash. Okay, so she chose, and it's in the report here, they call it an obscure route, a route that she visited a few days before and a route not routinely taken by her. This was cited as supporting purpose and intent. She was familiar with the specific path leading to this solid brick target. Okay, driving down that street, you kind of have to know, what are the chances, right? I mean, like, if you turn down another street, because it's my understanding there's other streets you could have turned down. That happens to be the one that has the perfect brick wall at the end of it for you to just like floor it and go right into it, okay? This is cited as supporting purpose and intent. She was familiar with the path and she drove this route 7 times just before the crash. That's what I have here, 7 times. We can call it scouting the location, a dry run. I don't know how else, you're not going to get potatoes 7 times. All right. I don't need to say anything more. The prosecution did not appear to hinge this case on disproving every possible innocent visit that was around that area. But it's to be noted that it was 7 times. Instead, they emphasized more the deliberate choice of such an obscure high-speed route that just so happens have a huge building at the end of it. This is supported by GPS and court findings. The Life 360 app, combined with accelerator data, lack of braking, prior threat, and then all these crazy relationship dynamics. Again, you don't have to be a rocket scientist
Hey TikTok, we're doing another fruit review, and today we have a Mitsu apple. It's as big as my head. I only eat green apples, so let's go. The corner pieces are my favorite, and now I'm gonna try it.
Okay, so I'm excited about this next one. So, which is it? Is it seizures or POTS? Because seizures and POTS are completely different conditions that affect the body in very different ways. And Crime Circus's video was only 3 weeks ago. So, are you changing your narrative here? Because now he's like, she had a seizure. Okay. Let me explain some things. So, they affect the body in very different ways, seizures and POTS. Okay. A seizure is caused by an abnormal electrical activity in the brain and can trigger a sudden blackout, convulsions, or loss of awareness. And this is often followed by a post-ictal state of confusion. That includes disorientation. It includes exhaustion that can last from minutes to hours to even days afterwards. Now, POTS, on the other hand, is a disorder of the autonomic nervous system. Okay. And this is which the heart rate spikes excessively upon standing, leading to dizziness or fainting due to reduced blood flow to your brain. Now, POTS episodes are usually preceded by warning signs like lightheadedness or nausea. They rarely involve convulsions and typically allow for much faster recovery once the person lies down without the same prolonged confusion or a foggy mental state that you would see after a seizure. So I find it funny that this guy is flip-flopping. You know, we've heard the parents are saying it's POTS, but so recent signs of a seizure are these things. Bitten tongue. You bite your tongue when you have a seizure. Bruises, elevated creatine kinase, it's called, which rises in the hours after a seizure. You can have urinary or bowel incontinence, serum prolactin blood test, but that has to be drawn within 20 minutes after a seizure. So investigators noted that she was officially diagnosed with POTS in November 2017 by a neurologist. Yeah, I mean, look, I speak truth, people. It's here in the report. She had a diagnosis in this report, according to these investigators that they found, that a Dr. Sivaraman, neurologist in November 2017 said, you have POTS. But the specific seizure symptoms and tests that investigators obtained and summarized from a 473-page medical report from Metro Health, this documents her emergency trauma care. And this report said that there was absolutely no mention of these things. No mention of her tongue being bitten. She didn't lose her bowels or pee her pants. Elevated creatine kinase tests, serum prolactin tests. None of these were done. Of course, you got HIPAA here, but the investigators were able to summarize the medical reports they got, and that's what I'm getting this from. So State of Consciousness and Memory Addendum by Dr. Eric Jenkins on the morning of the crash noted that Mackenzie was awake, alert, with appropriate, clearly articulated verbal response. Okay? That's not usually common after blacking out and especially after a seizure. Okay? So here's the medical and social history. POTS. The report officially lists POTS in her past medical history, noting it was reported by her mother and on school records only. Okay. There is no incident of her ever actually having a POTS episode at all. And if there was, people, they would have brought it forward during her trial. But because there was none, sorry, no dice. Also, she lied about it to get her driver's license. When it just so happens that on that night she blacks out. She had already been up and about after that party. She had got up from the couch. She had been sleeping. You had to walk to the car and all that. There's no way she had a POTS episode. I'm sorry. Under her social history, though, the report states that she denies tobacco use, alcohol, and drug use. So she lied there on her report, social and medical history report. The record also records here, and it's noted, quote, high likelihood of malnutrition. Then her toxicology and labs are this. Her serum ethanol blood test showed less than 10, meaning no alcohol was detected. Drugs. In the trauma labs, a box for urine toxicology listed unconfirmed, was checked off. A formal toxicology screen was initially ordered on the morning of the crash, but records show it was subsequently discontinued by another doctor the following day. The report also notes under history of present injury that police informed the hospital 2 victims were dead on arrival and that multiple drugs, including mushrooms, were found in the vehicle. Okay, mic drop. Ready? After a generalized seizure, sufficient to cause complete blackout, or the seizure caused a POTS blackout, while driving, patients are typically in a post-ictal state. They are confused. They are disoriented, lethargic, with slowed or impaired speech and thinking that can last minutes to hours, sometimes even longer. We're talking days. Okay? Appropriate, clearly articulated verbal response is inconsistent with recent significant seizure activity. Okay? Event-specific amnesia, no recall of this collision on her part, can occur from trauma, concussion itself, or other causes. But global post-ictal impairment is usually broader. The combination of normal mental status plus absence of convulsive stigmata and lack of supportive labs in a detailed 470-page trauma report is strong evidence against a seizure causing pre-crash blackout. This aligns with the prosecution's position and the court's findings that there was no medical evidence of any adverse medical event causing this crash. Okay, now POTS, if someone with POTS loses consciousness, their muscle control typically goes limp or becomes erratic. However, the Southwest Crash Investigation Group, the analysis of the EDR data shows continuous acceleration. That means the gas pedal was held continuously at 100%, fully floored, for at least 4.75 seconds prior to this hard steering event. Okay, which means she needs to be awake for that hard steering event. Okay, that's deliberate steering. The data recorded a hard steering event right before the car hit a curb and then strikes the building. Sergeant Ryan Fox of Ohio State Highway Patrol concluded this indicated a deliberate manipulation of the steering wheel immediately prior to the intersection. Okay? Steering wheel was being actively controlled left and right. You can't be passed out and all of this happen. You just can't. You can't. So because the forensic data proves she was actively and steadily holding this pedal, okay, and everything else that goes with that, and because she had legally declared to everyone that her POTS did not cause episodes of unconsciousness or loss of muscular control, investigators concluded the crash was a deliberate act rather than resulting of a fainting spell. So I'm going to leave you with this. There was a lot more to debunk here. But there is way more people out there that are just BSing y'all to death. Okay? Take a look at a few more right here.
I support the Free Mackenzie movement.
I watched the Crash documentary on Netflix and I came away from it believing with all of my heart that Mackenzie Shirilla is innocent.
Mackenzie Shirilla, the subject of the new Netflix documentary, The Crash, is not guilty of murder.
Kenzie didn't just survive that accident. She survived domestic violence, too.
No, Dominic's mother, it was just an accident.
All those angry texts from her are reactive from being...
Mackenzie Shirilla is not guilty of vehicular manslaughter. Mackenzie Shirilla is not guilty of aggravated murder. She is not guilty at all, and I'm going to tell you why. I'm not going to argue with you.
Well, I want to thank you all for being here with me today. Make sure you guys smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and I will be on shortly with some more stuff. I'll be doing a live stream soon, and we could talk about all of this together. So thank you so much for being here. I love y'all. God bless you.